Jay, you've spent decades helping families think beyond financial capital. When you talk about complete family wealth, what are most families missing when they focus almost entirely on the money?
Andrew, the most important thing in practice, which we're coming from a practice to a philosophical conversation, is to actually reprogram the right hemisphere, as Ian McCroker says, the one that deals with art and beauty and systems, as opposed to logic and analysis of the left hemisphere. It's to reprogram the right hemisphere so that when you hear the word wealth, the only thing that comes into your cortex is well being. That's it. Well being. Wealth means well being. And for those that are interested in lexicons and words, history, when German and Latin converged in the 4th and 5th century AD in England to create what is today English, that we're speaking in this particular setting today, very quickly, two words were coined which flow together. We, W-E-O, these are Anglo-Saxon words. We oath, you can hear we oath, wealth. They were conflated to mean wealth is well-being. And any dictionary of English, going all the way back to the beginning, with the exception perhaps of the last 30 or 40 years, the first definition of wealth would have been well-being. A much later definition, or a very subsidiary, can't talk today, definition would have been financial capital. So to pick up on something you said in your very, very kind introduction, when a family looks at its wealth, right hemisphere, the whole wealth, not left hemisphere money, it very quickly sees that it has spiritual capital, my pinky, social capital, can it make great decisions together? This is common purpose, by the way. This is make good decisions together. This is learn together. This is be thriving human beings. And now the financial capital has a purpose. I will simply say, Andrew, that in the 58 years I've been doing this, and my father 50 years before, the families that taught us that are doing very well. Some of whom I have helped for 4 generations, and he helped for 2 generations before that. Those who define wealth as financial capital sadly have a very short life.
You've written about the importance of rituals and rites of passage. Why do families need more documents and spreadsheets to prepare the next generation for responsibility?
Well, first thing I would say on spreadsheets is, since all of us learn in 6 quantitative ways and 2 qualitative ways, only a very, very few of us learn by numbers. So if we're a joint decision-making system, social capital, which we are to make decisions over 4 or 5 generations that we hope we will achieve, only a very few understand those. So by definition, all the rest do not, or at least don't understand them in the way that they would best understand them if they had been delivered in the way that they learn best. Pretty basic stuff. And Andrew, won't surprise you that the first thing I did with any family in all the years, I'd say 40 years of this practice, who asked me if I would go on a journey with them to see if they could make their 4th and 5th generation, the first thing we did is study our learning styles. First thing. So that we knew that the material we were receiving was the way we would best receive it. Oh, and by the way, the trustees and the family office executives had to do the assessment as well. Oh, and by the way, since they're producing a lot of material that our family needs to integrate, all of a sudden they have to learn how to produce it in 3 or 4 different ways, not the way they do it best. Isn't that interesting?
It's very interesting.
The value of our human beings thriving, learning, making decisions, purpose, very, very much have to do with how we learn together. Of course we do. So learning isn't just a value, or education is about, no, learning experientially is a value, so that when we make decisions together and we're looking at our purpose, we've given each other the highest capacity to integrate the material we'll need to help us make those decisions and discover that purpose.
For a family listening today that's never done anything like this, they haven't gone through this type of exercise, what is a simple ritual or conversation that they could begin doing right away?
Well, I'm going to say something that our field has been very, very unsatisfactory in teaching. Andrew, if I again summed up all these many, many years, the most important thing for a family is to be welcoming. Pure and simple. The first two people who form family, you can't have a single person family, welcome each other, don't they? They make promises to each other about how they will conduct their affairs together, how they will enhance each other's lives. The tragedy is they have children, and suddenly when the children begin to that same process, they start building boundaries and walls and castles instead of looking at the question of how family works, and it only have a future if it's welcoming.
So start by being welcoming.
Isn't that how family begins in the first place? And
welcomed into the world.
Everything we do for a future in family depends upon being welcoming. Isn't that, everything is a very big word, but I'm very comfortable using that word because it is everything. The moment the senior members of a family consider the possibility that their children have partnered or will be partnering with someone who will steal from them, the family's done. There's no place for that new person to join that his and her creation, their gifts, will be received. That is a human tragedy waiting to happen, and a family tragedy that will happen.
So red flag to avoid and watch out for. Let's move on to segment 2.